All right, so we're going to be checking out the Janovich's video, Trench Crusade is a disaster, and here's why. And as I've been kind of saying, I'm recording this on a live stream, but as I've been kind of telling people on live stream, just to real quick zip it off for the video portion, I have spoken with Janovich privately, so to speak, on his community Discord, as well as he popped into one of my live streams and kind of spoke back and forth with me on the 3D model STL file front and spoke to some design issues. I'm suspecting a good portion of this video is about that, but I am hopeful that there is also some new information gleaned in this video that I don't already know from having spoken to Janovich directly. So let's check it out.
For almost a full year now, I've been getting a lot of comments about Trench Crusade under my videos. Especially since I've announced that I will be no longer making content for Warhammer, there have been so many comments telling me to start making content for Trench Crusade instead.
And I won't pause too many times, but just kind of throw this in real quick. I also walked away from 40k content, not 100%. Like on the private front, I still play the tabletop of my LGS. I still have minis in my pile of shame that I need to like go through and buy. I have such a big pile of shame though. Quitting 40k is, if anything, a benefit to me because I have way too many boxes to go through. But I also walked away from 40k, and I don't intend to buy, like, my last GW mini ever is over there. You guys can't see it, but it's a Horus Heresy model. It's a Mechanicus mech. That was my I on my private Discord with my friends. I shared that I purchased it, and I said my last GW mini ever. I'll never buy another product from them again outside of paints. Admittedly, I still buy the Citadel paints because the metallics better than any others so far. And yes, I've tried Vallejos, tried Army Painters. I've tried pretty much everybody but two thin coats. And so far, no metallic equivalent has matched Lead Belcher and Retributor Gold, things like that. So, but generally speaking, I don't buy any minis from GW anymore. I don't buy any new rule sets or anything like that, and I don't need to. I mean, I got several editions behind me. I got some 3rd edition, I got some 4th edition, 9th, my 7th edition is, I think it's somewhere on the second shelf. But I got my, I got some of the older editions plus 9th, and yes, I do have the 10th edition rulebook, but I don't use it. I don't ever play it. Yeah. I also walked away, and I walked away for similar reasons to Janovich. After the drama where GW sued a BattleTech creator over stuff that they did, and yes, he got let off the lawsuit, but he had to waste money and hire a lawyer to get taken off that lawsuit. But the whole situation was ridiculous. After that point, plus I got really blackpilled with the community because so many people would like agree with me when I would shit on GW for the crap that they pulled, and then like the next day they would share like pictures and stuff of minis that they just bought like that same day or pre-ordered. And it's like, okay, you can agree with me all you want that GW sucks, but if you keep giving them money, why would they ever stop? And I got blackpilled not because of the culture war stuff and like the woke, or because of just because, I should say, of GW's antics. What really blackpilled me though was the community that sided with me, the community that recognized my criticisms and agreed with me, and were just as loud about their criticisms as I was, but were still buying the products, were still doing everything they could to support GW effectively. For me, at that point, it's like, okay, maybe I'm wasting my time. So yeah, I've walked away from 40k and a content creator front. I want to get back into doing hobby loves, which will include 40k minis, of course, but that's just minis as a whole. I also want to do homebrew highlights, which is 40k exclusive content, but that's community content, and I'm really, really slow with making those because they're really specialty videos, each and every one of them. So I take a long time on them. But generally, outside of that, I've more or less walked away. I'll cover when they do major drama, but yeah, Janovich actually helped give me like one last push when he also walked away. So yeah, my channel's hurt because of it, but I'm happier not constantly talking about how a hobby I once loved is shit. It's just depressing when it happens. Anyway.
Talking well into the hundreds of comments now. And given how much overlap there is between the Warhammer and Trench Crusade community, and because I'm interested in Grimdark, World War One, and the Middle Ages, people assume that because Trench Crusade is a mixture of all of these things, that it's a perfect fit for my channel. And they're not entirely wrong. But there are some massive issues with Trench Crusade, and because such a massive part of my audience keeps asking me about it, I feel I now owe them an explanation for why I've chosen to stay away from Trench Crusade. As most of you will know, there was some political drama about Trench Crusade, but this video is not about that, and I really couldn't care less.
Let's carry on. There's much so.
Yeah, and respect to Janovich and others for also, trying to keep their hat out of that ring. Sometimes I do really wish certain creators would pick a side, if you will. But even then, I don't want them to pick a political side. I want them to pick a pro-universe and pro-hobbyist front versus an activist front. It's like, you don't need to be right-leaning to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't add femstodies just for the sake of whammon. Maybe when we add women to the universe, it should be genuine and not based on a political bias as well as a political pander. Like maybe when we do stuff like for the hobby, it should be for the hobby and for an overarching benefit, whether it's on the meta front or whether it's an in-universe thing. It should be done because it makes logical sense and a logical conclusion for things that are set up in the universe, rather than, again, political biases and propaganda. You don't need to be like, you could be hyper left-leaning and agree to that notion, but generally, I get that there's a lot of people who are like, nah, I don't even want to touch that. And trust me, I do get it. It's very stressful to do it. You do make a lot of people hate you. I know. And I've made videos on the political stuff in regards to the political and the community drama stuff with Trench Crusade. They're like a year plus old videos, so if you want to check those out on my channel, they're somewhere. But I've already covered that stuff, so I'm not going to reiterate it again here. But yeah, I do understand why Janovich doesn't want to touch it, especially since, again, this video is going to be about something that's more overarching and objective, regardless of your political leaning or your social leanings. Real quick, those who keep buying don't understand that starving the beast means in case of Big Corpo. Yeah, and I think I would like to say it's a case of people don't get it, but I think it's a case of people understand it, but they are just too addicted. Like the system, it was too good at giving them an emotional reliance. So I think a lot of people understand that the right thing to do would be to stop buying from GW, but they just won't because they can't. They've created an emotional reliance on like buying minis, assembling them, painting them as like a stress relief activity. It's an addiction without a chemical causation. Well, I guess it is a chemical thing. It's endorphins in the brain.
A lot of mistakes to do.
Not that I'm a
For
doctor.
me, Trench Crusade personally didn't appeal, because although I do like World War One and Middle Ages, I don't like the mix, and also it includes stuff like fighter jets and other World War II influences that kinda ruined the World War One vibe for me anyway, but I was at least open to giving them a chance. What this video is actually about is their Kickstarter, which turned out to be a massive rabbit hole. If you look at the Kickstarter comments, it's just an endless stream of people asking when their stuff will be delivered. I think there's literally now...
Wait, I didn't talk to Janovich about that. Like, their stuff hasn't been delivered? Wait. I knew that the quality of the product was shit, but I thought they were delivering them.
Thousands stream massive rabbit hole. If you look at the Kickstarter comments, it's just an endless stream of people asking when their stuff will be delivered. I think there's literally now thousands of comments like this. This was made worse by the printing company that they are working with, sending people broken miniatures or just straight...
What the fuck? Okay, so this he did talk to me
missing
about.
large chunks of their...
Huh.
Or thousands of comments like this. This was made worse by the printing...
Let me, first off, let me read a couple of these real quick. I received my package 2 days ago, and I'm really frustrated as I received 2 of the new Antioch warbands rather than what I ordered. Wait, so, okay, so people aren't even just, like, not getting their stuff. What they're getting is the wrong product. What? Okay, rather than what I ordered, which was the warband and the bundle with the additional characters. Wait, so I'm assuming on the Kickstarter, like I've never made a Kickstarter, so I don't know exactly how the back end looks. But I'm assuming the Kickstarter has a itemized list of the people they're backing, like money and like what products they're owed based on the Kickstarter promises. I'm assuming that's bracketed in some kind of table that they can just print off. So if they have any kind of like, it doesn't even need to be a factory setting. Someone's garage. If you got the 3D printers and you got the boxes and you got the bags and got everything that you're going to seal everything up in, it should be like an assembly line. It's like, okay, you got the guys who print off the file. They're going to clean it. They're going to cure it. Once it's cleaned and cured, fully, presumably, you're then going to move it to the guy who's going to dry it off and then, double check that they've got the included instructions for all the different pieces, double check the quality of each print, and then send it off. Now, obviously, if there's a resin trap, eyeballing it isn't going to immediately tell you, oh, there's something wrong with it. Unless it is an obvious resin. Sometimes a resin trap is obvious. Sometimes it's subtle and it'll break open over time. I've actually printed off a few minis that were poorly designed that had resin traps. So I've dealt with a resin trap issue. I had a couple heads burst open on my desk, and that freaked me out. But thankfully, I know how to handle resin. I know how important it is not to touch my mouth after I touch liquid resin. So I was able to clean it up real quick, and thankfully it wasn't at like a hobby shop playing with them. But the point is, you should have all of that assembly line, and it should be kind of like at a restaurant with the receipts. It's like, okay, here's what box, bundle, and stuff that they're owed from the Kickstarter. Boom, take it from a print, assembly, bagging, quality assurance, instructions, throw it in the box, seal it up, package it, send it out. And they should do that as fast as they can and reliably do it correctly. Obviously, always go slower if you are having issues with like the pace of the product. And to be fair, this kind of just popped in my head. To be fair to Trench Crusade and the people behind it, they did get an influx of support. Like they got millions, what was it, like $3 million on the Kickstarter? That means they got thousands and thousands of people, more than they probably were initially predicting, would be interested in Trench Crusade. So maybe the sheer volume of people threw them off and they didn't have the infrastructure ready to go to facilitate those products. The result is you put up a community post, you be transparent about that. You say, hey, we didn't expect this many people. We are overwhelmed. You're going to have to give us more time. We apologize, and then give a time frame and do your absolute best to live up to it. And if that time frame isn't working out and you need even more time, again, transparency. You tell the community, here's what's wrong, and then make sure you do it right. At the same time, it's simple. It is complicated. I do understand that, but sending people the wrong product, you're going too fast. Something's wrong on the back end, and you guys are not doing proper quality assurance. Hey, Litney. It's sort of like that, but never discount the quality of people simply not giving a shit. They do have that system. The people behind the project just don't care. I mean, yeah, I do think that that's the case. I'm doing this thing called, to be fair, I'm doing devil's advocacy. That's what I'm doing right now. But I don't think that's the case. I will admit. I do think, granted, I'm biased because I don't like the people behind Trench Crusade. To me, they've shown on a social level to be wretched people. So I am biased towards the idea that they are just lazy and they're assholes and they just don't care. But I'm trying to remove myself from that bias a little bit and give a fair shake. It's like maybe they were overwhelmed. That doesn't excuse giving people the wrong product, but it is an explanation. I do believe very strongly in not every explanation is an excuse, but every excuse is also an explanation. This is not quite an excuse, but it is an explanation. I do think there is a separation between the two. Let's keep going.
Company that they are working with, sending people broken miniatures or just straight up missing large chunks of their order. The Trench Crusade devs have been making tons of excuses and repeatedly making statements like, oh yeah, everything will be fixed end of the month.
Hold on. What did the Jamie collaborator? Hi Lucas, I'm really sorry. That is absolutely not acceptable and not F3D's usual quality. Well, apparently by the fact that by sheer volume of reports, that does seem to be your usual quality. because Janovich showed quite a few people commenting about issues with their products or not getting them. So that doesn't speak. That doesn't. Your general quality needs to be self-evident in its own right, and if you have that many people with issues, your S3D's quality probably is reflective of this. There has clearly been a problem with quality control. If you write to S3D at hello at they will send you replacements. Maybe Yanovich is going to go into this, but if there's anyone out there who did that process, who contacted 3DC, or sorry, S3D, please email me or message in like a stream or something. Comment even on the video portion of this or on the live stream. But please, if you did this, let me know if that actually worked and you got your product. And that's one, but two, you got the product in the quality that it was promised. I'm curious to see if that's actually happened for many people.
And repeatedly making statements like, oh yeah, everything will be fixed end of the month, yada yada, several times in a row. They then started shifting the blame towards the printing partner, who apparently had half their print farm out of action, so that was kind of weird to me. So at that point, I was kind of looking into how.
During the month of June, approximately 100 printers from S3D's print farm, which represents a massive 1/3 of their total capacity, broke down over the space of 2 weeks. Issues varied from dead pixels on the screens to broken build plate motors. To be clear, these kinds of issues do happen even with regular maintenance. What? Wait, so, okay. A third of their printers just broke? Now listen, I have 3D printers that I used quite a lot. I don't know what kind of printer they're using. Obviously, it's resin printers. They're SLA printers, but okay, that doesn't. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not gonna say that they're lying, but that sounds so odd that 100 at one time broke down. Usually, there's signs if you're. Granted, not always. Sometimes it sounds and operates normally, and then suddenly there's just a holdup. There's something wrong with the LED screens, or there's something wrong with the build plate, or there's sometimes there is problems with the motors, and they do just kind of happen. But for 100+ printers to just break down at one time, I'm not going to say they're lying, but that sounds a little convenient, or I guess inconvenient, but convenient to provide a reason why the product and the quality and all that is not on the up and up. Yeah, I'm not gonna say they're lying because I don't know that, but I'm gonna put a little pin on that and say that's little odd, little convenient, but okay.
How it was possible that a $3 million Kickstarter could fail in such a spectacular way, and started looking at their miniatures in more details. And that's when I found out that many of their miniatures had extremely bad pre-supports. So yeah, it is no wonder that their printing partner has having such big issues with pre-supports.
Yeah, I usually go for a raft. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna see if I can do this in a minute. If I can't do this in a minute, then we'll get back to the video. But I actually have some files. I'll pull up one of Warglave's prototypes real quick. Finished product files, STLs, Gretsch. Now, keep in mind before anyone gets for who's familiar with 3D STLs, keep in mind these are. Okay, this is the okay. Sorry, this is not my pre-supported file. This is just the raw STL. Where is the? Yeah, I'm gonna try and do this real quick. Where the fuck is? I know I have some pre-supported files. I'm trying to find them. Oh, jeez. Okay, I might not have them in that folder. Let me try this again with 3D printables. Okay, I think I got an example. All right, I've been using Chidu Box. I've been meaning to upgrade to a different one, but let me pull this up. All right, so this isn't the best example, but usually, if we go on Chidu Box, if it'll open, there we go. Usually on Chidu Box, for some reason my OBS does not like me using the file. Okay, well let me do this real quick. Why do you... It's just display capture. It's not... Okay. That's weird. For some reason, display capture hates this. But, yeah, for example, I use rafts. So, with rafts on your 3D print files, like this, they give, like, a more solid base for your supports on the actual build plate. And granted, I'm not the best at explaining this. I'm not going to pretend to be like the biggest pro with 3D printing, but I have some practice with it. Generally, it's a good idea to have like a raft or like a flat like area in which everything kind of builds off of. Why is... Okay, game capture's trying to capture it now. Oh god, OBS hates Chitterbox. This is weird. But yeah, but generally it's good to have like that solid base so all the supports build off of that general area, and plus it's easier to scrape off the build plate once everything's printed because it's all in like this one little flat area that's disconnected from the build plate. With all the supports directly onto the build plate itself without like a connected resin tissue there, it makes that creates a... Again, I'm terrible at explaining this, and I have a feeling I'm explaining this wrong, but it gives a better base support for removing and for the supports to be built off of, is like having that raft, as it's called. It's that flat base there, and I wish I could show it better, but for some reason OBS hates Chitterbox because it's fritzing out. All right, but sorry about that. Okay, yeah, I'm wondering why they decided not to do a raft. Yeah, something like that would also be better. Yeah, like a bigger base support for the supports, or foundation, I'd say. That's a better word. A better foundation for the supports. It feels odd that they would do whatever the fuck that is.
So yeah, it is no wonder that their printing partner has having such big issues making the deliveries when so many of their models will have failed prints just from being poorly designed. And this is exactly what many people complained about receiving models.
Yeah, so
with
this is what
missing arms
Janovich and I
stuff.
spoke about.
I was able to do extensive research because someone gave me access to all of the miniatures from the Kickstarter. I put these in the slicer software and then put them through a software called UV Tools, which will let you know exactly how many unsupported islands there are. And I can indeed confirm that many of the miniatures have really bad pre-supports.
Just to throw this out there, islands, quote unquote, when you're creating supports for a 3D STL file on something like Chitterbox, or there's another one out there that's popularly used, but the islands, as they're called, they're areas of like when you're simulating, like as the thing prints in the software, it shows you like layer by layer how it's going to print the file. Islands are spots on the model that need supports, and usually they're highlighted. Like Chitterbox highlights them. It even shows you like a coloration, like, oh, this spot needs an island. It's a spot that needs a support, so it'll print properly. Without that support, the resin has no foundation of which to like hold that up and keep it to shape. Again, forgive me if my wording or my explanation is not correct word for word, but generally that's my understanding of islands. Is they're spots that require a support, especially in the pose and whatever the 3D file is supposed to be in for the print, layer by layer, that needs a support on it to make sure it prints properly. So everything is into shape, so all the details are done correctly, and all the layers can be applied properly.
The Trench Crusade devs claim that the reported models
it's tedious to do them manually, but
had been fixed. So I double checked this by buying a few samples of this list from their My Mini Factory page, which should have been the updated ones, and compare those to the models that I already had. So yeah, while I can say that some of the issues have been fixed, a lot of the issues still remain. The person who apparently fixed the pre-supports has not been thorough enough, and still there remain a lot of unsupported islands, even in the models they claim have been fixed. Even worse,
Again,
a
not an
lot of the
excuse.
models
That's an
also
explanation.
still have
But
resin
they
traps,
probably
which,
rushed.
if you don't know what that is, are holes inside of the 3D model where liquid resin gets trapped, and eventually the resin fumes build up, and even months later this can literally break open the model. So even if you've already painted the model and are playing with them, they can suddenly break open at any moment.
That looks horrible. Yeah, so what, well, sorry, I won't go on too long of a tangent, but with I printed off some Space Marine heads with like a more knightly shape to them. They had a hole right behind the eye, or sorry, the lens portion of the helm that I couldn't see. And that burst open on 6 of the heads. Thankfully, long before I painted those models, I glued them together and assumed everything was fine, put them on the shelf to be primed later, and they burst open one day when I was just looking at them on my desk. They didn't burst open when I was holding them, but while they were there, they just started noticing it was pouring everywhere. They didn't realize the damage. But yes, resin traps are really, really bad. Because, well, again, I'm probably not the best person to explain this. I'm still, I would say, I'm either still considered an amateur or I'm slightly more informed than an amateur 3D printer, generally speaking. But resin traps can be quite destructive because the resin will pool in there, and resin is, well, it will eventually cause everything to burst open, crack open. Everything needs to be solid. That you can have hollow models, but the liquid resin on the inside needs to be cleaned out of a hollow model. So you need to usually have like a hole or something on it so the resin can be drained out or washed out. That way, when you do the curing process and everything, the actual solid resin shape you want to be maintained won't be eroded by the resin. Basically, you've created a balloon bubble that will eventually burst on the inside if you don't have a way to vent out the liquid resin. I don't know exactly materialistically what happens. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily that the resin is eroding the solid resin from the inside. I don't know if it's creating some kind of toxic fumes on the inside, which kind of like expand and cause the solid resin to crack and bust. I don't know the exact mechanics of it, and I apologize for my lack of informedness on this. I am familiar with resin traps as far as them existing and them being something to avoid, but I will say Janovich knows way more about the exact mechanics and like the chemical explanation of why these liquid traps just burst or cause these damaged problems.
And
But I am
spilled
familiar
toxic
that they
liquid
exist and that there's
resin
something to
all over the
avoid.
table, your hands,
And
or
I've
your
experienced them
storage case,
firsthand.
which is just really bad. So this is all extremely
Yes, resin
amateuristic,
is
especially
toxic.
considering how easy it is to fix these things. And
So
for
it
a
very well
$3
might be the
million
fumes.
Kickstarter, people are going to assume things are done properly, when in fact they are not.
Somebody with some common sense would probably stop us, but there was nobody with common sense with the team, so we did it anyway. Like Iron Man says, not a great plan.
These models
Ooh. That did not age. Oh, that did not age well.
were still actively being sold on their stores and being shipped out to Kickstarter backers. So I reached out to one of their devs and politely informed them about the seriousness of this issue. So obviously he told me that they had already fixed a lot of the models, which I replied with in no uncertain terms, and I quote from the message I sent him: "I have double checked several models recently purchased from my mini factory that have these issues. Even miniatures that were on the list claimed as fixed still have issues. For example, Human Body 4 was claimed as fixed, but the second largest resin trap still remains, as well as unsupported islands. This is really not just a matter of report it and we'll fix it. The entire range need to be double checked by the developers. Otherwise, people are going to be sent out models with resin traps and files that are not properly supported." I also informed them that if they did fix this, I would retract my community warning. He claimed that he would get it sorted this week, but I have never heard from them again, nor do we have any reason to believe they have actually fixed anything.
And that was back in July. Janovich released this video 3 days ago, so they haven't responded in that entire time. So just for context, how many months is that? All right, so July to August, September, October, November, December, and now January. That's 6 months. In 6 months, Yeah. That's half a calendar year. No response. This like and the best part, I think the best part about this video is Janovich is not the type of guy to make a hit piece. He is not the type of guy to make a video shitting on someone out of something petty or immature or anything like that. He is just laying out the facts, and that makes it all, in some ways, that makes it the most brutal hit piece ever, because A, it's coming from a genuine person, B, it's just the facts, and the facts make them look so fucking bad. They are speed, like, in some ways, they are worse than Games Workshop so far, I would argue. Because here's the thing. What's the one thing that we still give credit to Games Workshop for? That to this day, you can say, if you purchase something from Games Workshop, and here's the thing, I hate them. I hate Games Workshop, and I do mean hate. Like, it used to be dislike, it used to be despise. It's hate. I genuinely hate them. I love their, which is sad, because I love the universe, I love 40K, I love the hobby that they created, but I fucking hate the company. But even with Games Workshop, what's the one thing we can still give them credit for? What? No. Customers. No, the quality of the product. The plastic kits generally are all delivered on time if you properly order them, and they're all in working order. Great models. Yes, thank you, Lindsay. Amazing customer service. I can't tell if you mean that seriously or not. I hope you don't, Vivek. Good God. Amazing customer service, my ass. Granted, they don't have the worst customer service, I don't think, but unless if you're talking about the physical stores, maybe you're right. I don't have that. We don't have Warhammer stores here. I just have my local LGS, and I'm not giving Games Workshop credit for how my LGS conducts like customer service, but that's because they're not actual Warhammer stores. But maybe, like, if you're talking about Warhammer stores, like, in person, maybe you're right. Online, fuck no. But yeah, great models is definitely... The bar is tripping hazard and hell no. Yeah. But you can rely on GW to actually give you your shit, and it's decent model kits. Like, the plastic kits are really solid. Most of the time. There are the monopose kits, and there are some kits that look ugly. But you don't get these kind of same issues. If you ever have an issue, they go above and beyond to fix it, and the stores are usually good, at least in the UK. Again, we don't have them here, so I can't... on that front, I can't agree because I don't have it here. And I'm sure in-person stores do take it seriously, but here, no. They have terrible customer service to distributors, though. I wouldn't know too much about that. I'm not a distributor. But I would say my experience with their customer service... I don't have many experiences. I had one where I had to return a model kit like 4 or 5 years ago. They said they would replace it. For context, the problem was they were actually missing a whole like plastic sprue from the kit, and I actually didn't realize that for like 3 days. I thought I lost it, but no, I realized it wasn't in the kit to begin with, and I showed them that I didn't have it. They said they would replace it. That was the good side. The downside is they didn't for a long time. I had to email them an additional, I want to say 2 times before they finally acknowledged the prior emails, and then they said they would replace it. And then like another month after that, I finally got the replacement. So I did get the replacement. So in the long run, they did do what they say they were going to do. But I had to go through months of re-emailing them and re-explaining the issue and convincing them that I had already asked for a replacement and was already promised one before I finally got one. Now, in my case, maybe it was because I'm an American, and that was like causing, like, the distance was causing issues, but that was my experience with their direct customer service on the miniature front. If we're including customer service with their PR, they suck ass. If we include their PR, like the Warhammer community page on like X and stuff, Warhammer, like Games Workshop sucks. I just realized we're on a really long tangent about Games Workshop here. I'm going to cut us off on this one, Vivek. Put a pin in it. Back to Trench Crusade.
But it's not only their resin range that has problems.
I did it again.
Because when I looked at their FDM printed terrain, I was actually shocked by how it was designed. Because nobody who actually knows anything about FDM printing...
Wait, what? What is that? Looks like, well, it looks like a paste, but let me, is that glue? What?
He's
Sorry,
shocked
my
by
brain
how it
is
was
not processing what that is. Is that glue? What is that?
designed, because nobody who actually knows anything about FDM printing would support and
Why did they print it like? Well, I'm sorry, not why did they print it like that? Why did they design it like that? Why is it one big piece? Granted, I get it would be frustrating to have like a dozen of those fuckers printed separately, but like I don't know. I feel like, granted, it wouldn't look as natural, quote unquote, but I would design it more uniform than that. That looks like it would be held to print properly.
print a model like they showed. They even published a tutorial how to remove the supports from the terrain.
By ripping, like, he's using pliers. By ripping them off the butt. What the fuck? What's with that mesh? What is? Okay, granted, this is not this isn't resin. This is FDM printing, which I don't have as much. I don't have any experience with FDM printing. Okay, I'm gonna let Janovich go because he'll probably explain it.
Which leaves the bottom of the sandbags with this incredibly rough spaghetti texture, which is just completely brain dead, considering these parts would not need any supports in the first place if they had been designed correctly.
In a grim, dark world sculpted by James Sheriff and some of the greatest creative minds in wargaming.
At this point,
Again, this is the most brutal hit piece of all because it's just facts. It's coming from a genuine person, and he's letting their own words bury them. Oh, that I felt that. Oh, it's amazing how much that like I'm not even Trench Crusade that stung.
By James,
if they had been designed correctly.
Just factually lays out all the bullshit, monotone, straightforward. Like, hey, here, this is ass.
Grim, dark
then
world
lets their words hurt
sculpted
them.
by James Sheriff and some of the greatest creative minds in wargaming.
Designed by this specifically named person and the greatest minds in wargaming, and they can't even get this right. Oh god, I don't know. Like, ooh.
At this point, I was just thoroughly convinced that despite their Kickstarter claiming they have industry veterans joining them, that either nobody knew what they were doing or they simply did not care. Whichever is the case, it remains that the quality control of this project is absolute trash. And by the point I'm making this video, it's several months later and there are still people who have not received their Kickstarter rewards, and the comments with issues like these keep streaming in like before.
While we are focusing ourselves on the Kickstarter, we want there to be new Trench Crusade stuff, because if we paid our attention purely on a new product, instead of making sure that the backers get their stuff as quickly as possible, that would slow it down.
This did not stop the devs from going on to develop a kit of plastic miniatures that they have already sent out to various influencer miniature channels and is being sold before many of the supporters have received the stuff that has been promised to them.
I did hear about the plastic kit conversion thing. I also heard that they're not doing STLs anymore, right? That they're just going pure plastic now. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I thought I heard that they're switching completely to plastic. Oh, Mini Wargaming Dave. Oh. This does not make him look good, man. I actually like Mini Wargaming Dave. He probably would hate my ass, but I actually like this guy and everything I've seen him in. He always has like awesome energy for the hobby. But this is
So I've already sent out to various
tabletop minions. I don't like tabletop minions. That guy's well, I'll be nice because granted, I haven't seen all his stuff. I don't know if he's ever been like genuine, but everything I've seen for tabletop minions and this guy specifically, yeah, he's full of shit a lot of the time. Trench Titans, don't know them. I can't see who this is properly. That's Army Painter and someone called Metters Miniatures. I don't know them. But yeah, really, I can only speak to tabletop minions.
Influencer miniature channels and is being sold before many of the supporters have received
€39.99. I do not know what that is in American. What is that in real dollars? I'm gonna do that real quick. 33. Well, let me do 40 because it's 40. 40 euro to dollars. All right, so that's $46.50, just about. So that that's I would say, how many minis is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's like a squad right there. And to be fair, I think the actual scale of the game is like squad level, right? It's not platoon level, and I don't think it's company level or platoon level. I think it's squad level. I think it's kind of like kill team. So assuming it's roughly the size of a kill team, this is all you need to play. I would still say, though, just going off the miniature count, though, ignoring like the actual game size itself, $45 is a bit much, especially given how the quality is. I wouldn't pay. I wouldn't buy these to begin with by the quality reporting. But that pricing's a little on par with GW, a bit too on par with GW, if you ask me.
the stuff that has been
They still have STLs, but I think they're withholding them until they figure out how to prevent pirating. That's their biggest concern.
promised to them.
I was a poor kid in Finland once who really wanted to play war games. Not a cheap hobby normally. And I thought, I don't want to build a game that is a walled garden only for rich people.
And of course, in order for them to play, we had no miniatures. So we just said that you can now and forever use whatever miniatures you want.
To pour salt on the wound, Trench Crusade, despite very explicit earlier promises during the Kickstarter campaign that they would always support 3D printing and cherish that community, then announced that they will no longer be going forward with 3D printing STL files.
Okay, no, later in the song, they've nixed them. They're not doing, hold on, so I'm gonna read these fully.
Then Kickstarter campaign.
Digital miniatures. We are big believers in 3D printing and what it brings to wargaming, especially to our community members who are located in regions that are expensive to ship to. Therefore, the entire range will be available. To quote, the entire range will be available as STLs, both unsupported and professionally pre-supported for you to print at home.
Campaign that they would always support 3D printing and cherish that community.
Third party and fan sculpts. One of the best things about Trench Crusade is the incredible community that have already grown around it. God, this is all aged like fine wine. This includes some amazing sculptors that have already put out some very cool miniatures. Like with conversions, these will always be completely legitimate. They even bolded it. Like with conversions, these will always be completely legitimate. They did everything but italicize and underline it. We want to support and encourage creators via a third-party license, which we'll be talking about more during this campaign. We even have some very exciting news on that subject, so keep an eye on the updates.
Community then announced that they will no longer be going forward with 3D printing STL files and will exclusively release plastic miniatures going forward, which are then also sold at Games Workshop
Welcome, rabbit
pricing.
holes.
So anyone who supported the Kickstarter with the idea that
As a lot of you know, Trench Crusade got its start leveraging 3D printing technology via a very successful Kickstarter back in 2024. However, it immediately became apparent that 3D printing would not be able to keep up with the demand for the game and the growth of the community. They are so full of shit. Oh my god. So what is it? So is 3D printing this big thing that helped build this community, or is it not? Genuine question, because now they're like, oh, 3D printing isn't enough. 3D printing won't be able to keep up with everything, and 3D printing isn't, you know. But before, you were like, oh, 3D printing is this major thing that's always been kept in mind for Trench Crusade, and it's always been intertwined with. I hate hypocrites. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. Oh. Trench Crusade is lame. They are fucking lame now. Holy crap. Like, you either backed 3D printing and it was enough to back the community, or it wasn't. And if it wasn't, why did you initially promise and support and build around the idea that you would actually be contributing to the fucking scene? But now you're so full of fucking shit. They just want money. They're a bunch of greedy fucking pricks. Bunch of greedy fucking pricks. And here's the thing. It's fine to be a greedy fucking prick, but be so from the beginning. Say it. Say, hey guys, we want money. This is a business venture for us. We want to give you guys a cool setting and cool miniatures and a good product, but we want money. We're not supporting 3D printing because we want to make the max amount of profit, and we see the max amount of profit being done via our official models, via plastic kits. Start with that. You cannot unopen that Pandora's box when you initially promise, hey, we will always, and keep in mind,
Workshop.
they put it in bold.
Support very
whatever for them to play.
God.
promises during the
Like with conversions, these will always be completely legitimate. And that's regards to the 3D printing. One of the best things about Church community is that we already grown around, is the incredible community around it. This includes some amazing sculptors, meaning for STLs, meaning for 3D printing, meaning you will support that community. And that you will provide these STLs yourselves as well as allow other people to provide their own. You made a promise. All your monies belong to us. Yes, apparently all our monies belong to them.
3D printing and cherished that community and also sold at Games Workshop pricing. So anyone who supported the Kickstarter with the idea that Trench Crusade would continue releasing STL files has basically been lied to. I've seen people defending this.
Yes, they've just been lied to. Like basically, they have been. I mean, granted, basically, I don't know. Like it's just how do you genuine question. And I guess like you guys can't answer it, to be fair, so it's more rhetorical to you guys, but feel free to respond to it all the same. How do you enter the space? You present a grimdark sci-fi or kind of sci-fantasy setting, similar in overall tone and somewhat aesthetic to 40K. You essentially are creating a competitor to 40K. And you are entering the wargaming space, so presumably you know of, if not know directly, 40K. You know Games Workshop. There's no way you know about Games Workshop and you don't know about their shitty reputation. You don't know about some of the worst aspects about them. There's no way you just miss all of that and then proceed to be them in a fraction of the time it took them to become what they are. Games Workshop took decades to be as open and honest about being the shit company that we all fucking despise, yet somehow buy shit from because they know they have a good fucking product and a good setting that they can ape on for the rest of eternity. But at least with them, they had a period of time where we didn't know that they were a shitty corporate greedy ass and company. They had a portion of time where they were either able to very easily hide it or they weren't actually that at their core originally. Whatever the case may be. How do you enter this space, get $3 million from the community, not an investor, but $3 million from the community? You make promises, you tell people shit, and then you proceed to keep none of it. You proceed to do every mistake Games Workshop has ever made with none of the fanfare and none of the legacy and nowhere near as much over time. Games Workshop became apparently shit over decades. How do you become apparently shit within months to a year for existing? How do you repeat every mistake that they've made? Games Workshop survived it because A, they initially got their start where the internet didn't exist or was in its most primitive form. So widespread community communication about the company in terms of its shittiness wasn't really possible. And again, they still had an awesome product and an awesome setting to work off of that the community was focused on rather than the company's antics behind the scenes. But in the internet age, especially when your company and your product is built off of the internet from Kickstarter and shit, how do you make this mistake? And not just this mistake, these mistakes. Plural. They fucked up with the community, with the 28 mag Discord and their own Discord moderation, with siding with far left lunatics and switching to Blue Sky of all places, from shit talking content creators in their very humble, braggy, convention thing there that they did. How do you fuck up on that front? You then fuck up all the normies with the actual quality of the product itself and breaking promises to everybody about the STLs and shit. How? And then with the plastic kit conversion, you fuck that up as well by saying you're discontinuing support for the STLs that you initially promised you'd always be in support of. But now you're switching to plastic and saying fuck you to everybody who wanted and expected quality resin printable STLs. Or FDM printables as well. How? I don't understand how you can make like one or two of those mistakes along the road. Absolutely, I could see being made. All of them in such a short period of time. I know Lady Runesong, and that's the other thing. I'm developing a tabletop war game completely by myself, but, well, I say completely. I have someone who's now willing to help me with the rules, but listen, I expect I'm going to fuck up with Warglaive Gothic. I do. I expect first edition is going to have problems. I'm fighting my ass off to make sure it won't be. But even at my worst, I don't think I'd make these mistakes. Not even half of them. I don't get it. I don't. Like one or two of these mistakes. Not all of them. Not even half of them. I'm getting upset.
By saying
I still got
it's
the
a
open mic
company
to do.
And
Fuck.
moving to plastics is the only way to ensure their profits. But this doesn't really make sense. Either the 3D printing community is large enough to support them and continue making profits selling STL files, or the 3D printing community is so small that it wouldn't impact their plastic sales anyway. They cannot have it both ways. And we all know that it goes against what they have promised. Meanwhile, the long-awaited community license that they promised, which would outline ways for individual sculptors to sell their own Trench Crusade compatible models, has not been released yet. What makes this even worse is that they are now also working with an AI copyright enforcement company called Brand Shield, the very same one that Games Workshop is also working with. It has been
I need to hear that again. I'm sorry, I did not hear that right.
Copyright is that they are now also working with an AI copyright enforcement company called Brand Shield, the very same one that Games Workshop is also working with.
It's on purpose. It's on purpose. What I said before about how do you enter the space and not know about no, they know about GW's fuck ups. It's a checklist. Every GW fuck up, every GW misstep, every community FU GW has ever done. And Trench Crusade is like, well, we haven't done that one yet. Next, underline that shit. I gotta keep it going. I'm gonna keep it going. I'm gonna go on a rant if I don't.
It has been copyright striking a lot of sculptors for Trench Crusade minis for selling their models with terms like compatible with Trench Crusade, which I think is absolutely atrocious.
We are never going to give up on those principles.
I wish it all stopped there, but that's not all. The rulebook has been delayed a long time because the developers claimed that they wanted to absolutely make sure that it was perfect before being shipped out. In itself, that is fine. I bet a lot of people prefer to wait as long as the product is good.
Yes.
But the version they eventually did send out
Everything else
contained
around
errors, so there had to be a day one errata addressing multiple issues. And also, it is by the developer's own admission already outdated the moment it arrived, because they updated the rules already. And the boxes that they shipped it in had no padding, so a lot of people's rulebooks now arrived with severe damage. So imagine you are one of these.
Okay. Okay. So, Conflict 47 from Warlord Games, right? They just re-released like a new edition of Conflict 47, right? I got the rulebook. You see those marks right there? That was me, because I dropped it. Otherwise, perfectly intact. No damage on any of the pages. Spine, perfectly healthy. Absolutely everything, perfectly fine. No water damage, no cracks, no damage, nothing. And again, if it weren't for me dropping it, these little corner marks wouldn't be there. I did that. When I pulled this out of the plastic box, perfect. It doesn't take much to package shit correctly. There's bubble wrap and foam. Granted, in bulk, expensive. But worth it as long as you don't get a bad reputation for selling shit products. Now, granted, if that's the only damage to the books that he showed,
now arrived with severe damage.
Hold on. That's egregious right there. Look, like, because comparison, right? That's a little divot. This is from me dropping it on the floor, by the way. A concrete floor, not a rug. Barely a little indent. That looks like someone took a hammer to it. Like, look at how, like, bent inward that. It's like warping around. Like, that's a huge impact. I don't even know how they did that.
Because they updated the rules already. And the boxes that they shipped it in had no padding. So a lot of people's rulebooks now arrive.
And that looks like water damage to me. That or something else. Because that's not just like an impact damage. Like, look at that, like, discoloration. That looks like something else. Warlord Games. Okay? Conflict 47. If you're looking for a sci-fi grimdark or kind of grimdark setting, check them out. They're worth it. They are. I've got a painting video in the works for their Firefly USA infantry. And yeah, like, I hope you guys are looking out for that video, because I really like Conflict 47. The only problem I have so far with the whole thing is the bases for the infantry are thin. Like, they're really thin. That is easily fixable if I buy my own bases, or I just simply pad those bases out with some, like, basing material. Other than that, fucking love their sculpts. I love it so far. I love the setting. I love the quality of the product. And again, if it weren't for me, the rule book would be in perfect condition. Like, I don't even know what caused that damage.
With severe damage.
I don't. And that looks like someone took a fucking sledgehammer to it. And granted, I'm reacting like I am right now because of all the other stuff. This is, like, I'm not, like, this animated just because of some dent damage. It's everything, like, cascading. It's driving me nuts. Like, the AI, and then the AI, oh, God. I'm sorry, I gotta keep going.
So imagine you are one of these Kickstarter supporters. You will spend several hundreds of euros on the campaign because it looked promising, because it had a lot of industry veterans working on it. What could possibly go wrong? Well, you've been patiently waiting like a year for your rewards, only for many miniatures to arrive damaged and some not to arrive at all. When you contact the Crusade developers about this, they tell you to contact their printing partner, who is already overloaded with emails and barely gives you any updates, so you have no idea when the rest of the models will arrive, or if they will even arrive at all. Meanwhile, the YouTube influencers have already been showcasing the plastic miniatures that they have received for free, and you have nothing. Maybe you have a 3D printer and were supporting the campaign so you can 3D print your armies. But now you got rug pulled, because going forward Crusade will only release plastic models at high retail prices, locking you with your 3D printer out of any future armies added to the setting. So,
yeah, and now with the AI fucking thing that they're blocking people off from being able to print their own and sculpt their own, because it's one thing for it's already horrible enough for them to break a very overt promise. Hey, Guilty Hungry. Hey, what's up, man? Oh, guys, Janovich himself. Well, it's his video. I think he's busy right now, or Yeah, to be fair, I didn't invite Janovich on directly, but I usually don't with open mics. Usually if I'm gonna like invite someone on specifically, they're free to come on for like the open mics, of course. But usually for a creator like this, even if I'm in contact with them, I usually will have like a separate thing where I will invite them on a dedicated interview if I wanted to do that, rather than invite them on the open mic. Because open mics I don't pre-schedule outside like within a few hours of doing one. I only decided to do this like 4 hours before doing it. So like usually I don't, because it's too short notice to invite like a creator on for the open mic. But for an interview, I'll do like an extended like handout first. But yeah, with the AI stuff on top of it, like it's one thing. It's already horrible enough that they're discontinuing their STL support, but they're actively blocking other people from doing it by having an AI like legal company do it. Already horrible enough. Hey, poor orc child, welcome Ceiling Gato and welcome to Nomadic Gaming. Almost as if it was a rag pull. I mean rug pull. Is definitely a rug pull. Whether they at this point it doesn't even matter if that was on purpose. It is a rug pull by practice, by end result. Any company like that is going to be anathema to fans if they aren't of the echo chamber mindset and openly hate anything remotely close to good customer service and business practices. Yeah. Nah, he's not on the, he's not. I figured that was your mix up, Greg. It's fine. I definitely say he's free to come on, and I will say if he were to hop in, I would pull him into call first. But nah, I'm pretty sure he's asleep right now. I don't know exactly where Janovich lives, nor do I want to know. But I'm assuming it's somewhere in Europe, and it's pretty late right now for the Europeans. Yeah, let me get through this video, and then I'm gonna actually open the floor to the open mic for people to give their opinions, because you're getting mine already.
So instead you look to third-party sculptors, only to find several of them have been copyright struck and have their stores taken down for making miniatures that are compatible with Trench Crusade, and the license that would allow sculptors to do that has still not been published. Then after long delays, the rulebook finally arrives. It arrived damaged, it contains errors, and is already outdated. The moment you have them on the gaming table ready for your very first battle of Trench Crusade, one of them cracks and spills toxic liquid resin over your gaming table and wastes the many hours you've spent painting it. And you have no way to know which models is at risk and when it could happen. All of this before many of the original Kickstarter supporters even had a chance to play the game to begin with. And to top it all off, Trench Crusade does not offer any refunds to the people who've had any of this happen to them. So yeah, I think all of this is extremely bad, and they've basically speedrun from what is initially meant to be an indie team making a fun tabletop with their own community into a full-blown greedy corporation willing to screw over the people who supported them. This is not just a matter of making a mistake here and there. It seems that at every turn the Trench Crusade devs make the wrong decision. Whether that means choosing a bad production partner or going back on their initial promises. One way or another, the people who've helped make this Kickstarter a success are paying the price. As unfortunate as it is, I think by this point, the developers no longer deserve the benefit of the doubt, and they need to set things right immediately. The first step in this is offering refunds, not just replacements or promises that your models will eventually arrive, but actually giving people who no longer want to support this their money back. The second step is to stop erroneously copyright striking sculptors, especially with automated AI tools, at least until the third-party license that has been promised officially is released, so people know what is allowed and what to avoid.
Oh wow, that cut off real damn quick. Yeah, they're not gonna do any of that. They're not gonna. Okay, let me wrap up my thoughts real quick, and then we'll get to the open mic. But they're not gonna do a damn thing of that. They're not. Like, they didn't go out of their... Like, they went out of their way to hire that AI copyright company. They went out of their way to do that. When you go out of your way to do that, you're not going to undo that. I have no idea what they paid either to get that service, but they're not undoing that. Doesn't matter how bad this looks. And this looks horrible, by the way. Like, I don't know how you bounce back from this. Well, I actually no correction. I do. Not narcissist, but the pessimist in me. Welcome James Knight, welcome, and also welcome the Carnophage. But the pessimist in me believes that the way they get out of this is they just simply pretend it's not happening, and then the simp aspect of their community, who have like a sunk cost fallacy, come in and defend them and stand by them and buy their shit. Because that is a huge thing. That's a huge reason why modern GW is still kind of thriving for the most part, is the simp community. A lot of people have when they invest a lot of time, energy, and emotion into something, they are incapable of cutting themselves off of it. Like incapable. Like there's a level of desperation and not dedication, but it's when you dependency. There's a huge dependency someone puts onto an IP or something like this, and I think a ton of people put so much investment behind it, both emotionally and financially, that there's no going back. There are simps for everything, and there's gonna be simps for Trench Crusade. So, the pessimist in me believes if there's enough of those, Trench Crusade's gonna be fine. They're gonna struggle because now the normies don't like them, but they're gonna be fine if there's enough simps. If there's enough people with that sunk cost fallacy, whether it's emotional or financial or both, they'll survive. Unfortunately, doesn't matter how objectively bad they are, there will be people who will not let that go. They will make 1,000,001 excuses for them. Oh God, that was brutal to watch. I mean, granted, like for me, like I at least have the personal like disconnect that this is not like some. And again, I avoided thankfully putting money forward for the Kickstarter, but I was so close to doing it. Like I'm still like in that mindset of like, if I had put that money in, how mad would I be right now? Thankfully, I'm not that mad. I'm mad overall at the circumstances and everything and like all that, but I can only imagine how rageful I would be if I actually had money lost in this shit. Wow. Yeah, that was great video from Janovich. He broke down a lot, and a lot of that, like I had gotten from speaking with him myself, and I figured that was what was in the video. But having now finished and watched the video fully, and I left a comment based like before watching it, but like what's actually in the video is worse. Now I want to leave another comment, having watched it, being like, "Holy crap! I didn't know about this," but like, wow. Holy crap. Alright, that's it for the video portion. Make sure to like and subscribe, all that fun stuff, and make sure to check out Janovich's original video. And now on to the open mic.